Hello everyone, this is just a very quick update on the global macro because so much is happening. We're all very much aware of the tragedies continuing to unfold in Ukraine and the tragedy continuing to unfold and expand almost exponentially in the Middle East. Now, a lot of people keep saying we don't want a regional war. Well, guess what? There already is a regional war in the Middle East. A lot of countries are now involved. It's a regional war. I'm hearing Egypt just cancelled its treaty with Israel, which is a worrying development. So there's all sorts of things happening in the background there. And unfortunately, I am the bearer of bad news. Please, I'm just the messenger. That things are going to get worse before they get better. Now, the impact on interest rates is what we're interested here in Australia. And that is going to be, I think, well, a lot of other people, I noticed some people on the ABC started talking a day or two ago about how there could be an interest rate cut from the Reserve Bank of Australia this year. And of course, I've been telling you that for a few weeks now. So the rest of the market may be starting to catch up with us, but just remember it, you heard it here first at the propertyclub.com.au property update video. So that was my forecast, 1 or 2 rate cuts this year. That's still possible. I definitely see 2 or 3 rate cuts by March, April. The reason why my aggressive rate cut forecast for this year may not occur really is the sad events of the Middle East at the moment. Because what that is going to do is see oil prices higher. And we also saw in the European Union data yesterday that the producer prices inflation was very strong at 0.6% on the month. So it's been above 0.6% a month for 3 months. So it's kind of running at about 5 to 7% a year again, after it was actually deflationary and prices were falling in previous months. So this suggests there could be some buildup of global of inflation pressures in the pipeline, if you like, for the Eurozone, but it could also be an indicator of what's going to be happening across the Western world and in Australia as well, because we know that Australia's inflation rate is greatly influenced by the global inflation rate, even though the previous governor of the Reserve Bank, Governor Lowe, said that was not the case. He doesn't know anything about economics, and that's why he doesn't have his job anymore. So inflationary pressures could be in the pipeline, and that's before the recent surge in the oil price. Now, the surge in the oil price hasn't been too dramatic yet, and that's because a lot of people, including myself, have been warning, yes, oil prices are going higher, but OPEC doesn't want a runaway oil price to the upside. It wants to be seen as a responsible global citizen, which it has been of late. And so therefore, if markets do tend to run away too much, it may come out and say it's increasing supply to dampen prices. Now, that could occur at any moment. In the meantime, I also see on the other side of the equation that a lot of governments around the world, and I hope our government's doing it, are building their strategic oil prices with speed in case there is an ongoing conflict, an ongoing war, larger than the one that already exists, in which case having security over your energy supplies, not only for your economy, but for your military, becomes very important. And that could again start to sap on what is available for sale in the world. And remember, most of Europe's oil comes from Russia. Most of Europe's natural gas comes from Russia. What they've done to get around their own sanctions, the European governments have done this consciously to get around their own sanctions while telling everyone, their populace, that, Russia's bad, don't buy anything from Russia. They actually knowingly buy relabeled oil, Russian oil, that goes through India. It just gets relabeled as coming from India. So all of a sudden, India is a global exporter of oil, which it's never been before. And a similar story with natural gas. I think it goes via Norway or something, and then they say, we're buying Norwegian natural gas, we're buying Indian oil, but they know it's Russian, and they're happy to buy it because they need it. So that means that European energy supplies are still very dependent upon Russia. So an escalation in the situation with Russia over Ukraine could again cause a very significant energy shock to the European Union, which would again ripple around the world. Now, that will impact Australia because, bizarrely, we import a whole lot of energy when we're the world's second largest, I think, exporter of LNG, and yet we're paying extremely high prices domestically. So the inflation shock to Australia could be significant from that as well. And in any case, oil prices have begun to rally. So there's that background pipeline pressure I'm picking up in the European Union, which was there before the oil price rises. And now you add oil price rises to that, and I think natural gas prices are about to take off as well. And you get an inflation story coming back, which could prevent the RBA from cutting rates this year. Now, I'm talking all about the RBA cutting rates when the RBA is talking all about raising rates, but that I'm usually a far better forecaster of what the Reserve Bank will do than it itself is, and that track records, you can check that. So I think the Reserve Bank was going to be forced by a slowing economy to cut rates. Now, I still think the slowing economy will happen, especially due to greater geopolitical concerns and uncertainty. Therefore, we will have a slowing domestic economy, but property prices will remain in some regions and sectors, and that's why you need the expert advice from propertyclub.com.au. Some regions and localities, property prices are going to remain very strong due to the immigration impact, which will last 3 to 5 years. And you have to remember, this is the highest immigration we've had since, I knew the year. What was it? 1899? Something like that. Anyway, it's in one of the previous videos. Sorry about that. All right, so it's extremely high immigration levels. It's twice that of the United States. It is going to be slowed somewhat by a reduction in foreign students. But that background pressure that is built up to buy property in Australia is enormously significant and historically way out of the usual range, if you like. So that means over the next 3 to 5 years, in the right regions, the right locations, Australian property prices remain strong regardless of interest rates and regardless of the economy. But you do need that expertise for regional, local awareness. What I'm trying to get to is that I still think there will be an economic argument for the Reserve Bank to cut rates this year, forcing its hand against its will, because the economy will be slowing significantly, probably a recession. Remember, we've only got flat growth now in the private sector. It was the government spending that gave Australia any sort of economic growth in the previous quarter. So it could easily be negative already. We haven't got the data yet. So Australia's economy is definitely flat to slowing to recession, which I expect would normally force the hand of the Reserve Bank to cut rates, except that this latest geopolitical tragedy flare-up is going to have an inflationary impact around the world, including in Australia. So our inflation data may base around here, dip a little bit at first, but then begin to gain again, unfortunately, some traction over coming months, which may leave the RBA just sitting here where it is on hold for a very extended period of time as the economy drops away, but inflation remains firm and it's stuck in between. That could be the most likely scenario for the Reserve Bank outlook, and for property overall, at least you should be assured there are no more rate hikes coming from the RBA, because even if inflation is stronger in months to come, the economy will be weaker, and there is no argument at all, even for the last 2-3 rate hikes. The idea that inflation is coming from an overheating economy when the economy is flatlining, it's a non-starter in basic logic. And I think a Year 11 economics student could do better than the Reserve Bank of Australia. Anyway, so the good news is no rate hikes. The almost good news is that there should be a rate cut this year, but unfortunately geopolitical events overseas may preclude that from happening, but at least rates aren't going up. Overall, for the property market, some consolidation, some downside in some areas, and some strong upside continuing in others. Have a great day. Thank you.